a little bit on that and talk about how that translates into local programs being developed from research and delivered in those communities. You saw this map yesterday, but this really shows the makeup of Michigan, and we are divided into counties, so each of these little boxes is a county, and we have taken that county-based structure of our state and broken it up into districts. And that just is a manageable place for us to be able to have administrative oversight of working with county governments, local community partners and such, so that we're able to deliver those programs more effectively. They're not necessarily programmatic boundaries, but in some cases they do become programmatic boundaries for our staff. So I serve as district coordinator in District 12, which is 6 counties in the southeastern part of the state. And we go through a process every about 5 years. It's always ongoing, but we go through a very detailed process every 5 years to talk to our residents of our communities and ask them what they want extension to be for them. And Dr. Blair mentioned that a little bit yesterday, that we wanted to go out and really find people who didn't know us and ask them, rather than the people that we know and work with on a regular basis, and so that's what we did this last time. But what you can see here is that we take those questions that we ask communities and what they ask us to deliver programs on, and then we translate that information to our work teams, and they develop programs to bring back to those specific communities around the state. So part of my role as a district coordinator is to take these themes that are developed and help coordinate that back with our work teams and with our others on campus, other faculty and staff on campus, to help meet those needs in communities. One of the ways that we do that on an ongoing basis is I have what's called a district advisory council. That advisory council is made up of 3 or 4 members from each of the counties. We meet quarterly to discuss local issues, things that are going on, how programming is going, any local needs that may come up, and then we share that back with staff at our staff meetings and at other work team meetings throughout the year. So essentially the way our programming cycle works is that we take these community-based issues, we look at what research we have in place to be able to address those issues, because we want to make sure that all of the information that we deliver is based on sound science, based on knowledge that we know can be proven through replicatable research, and then delivered through extension program development. So we develop those programs, we deliver them in communities. We also have other focus groups, strategic planning sessions and things that help to address community problems and go through problem solving. We try to always follow those up with evaluations. We want to see how successful we are in that, what change did we make, was there any change in behavior, knowledge, attitudes, those skills. We take those changes and then we adapt new research for that, and the cycle starts over again. So we try to keep this loop going all the time and make sure that we're really in tune with what the needs are. Occasionally we have emerging issues. You've heard mentioned several times throughout the various presentations about the Flint water situation. That was something that came up. It wasn't anything that was expected. Extension was already there. We took what research we knew about water, we added to that with other curriculum and other pieces that we could deliver content on, and we delivered that. So that cycle happened much more rapidly than it does in other places, but extension, we like to say that we're adaptable and nimble to be able to address those issues as they arise very quickly, because we have a team of people that work throughout the state, that are part of those communities, they're embedded in the communities, and so they're much more rapidly able to respond to those needs as they arise. And of course, we do all of this with community partners, and I'll talk about some of those partnership programming initiatives in just a second. So when we looked at the issues for District 12, and the last time we did our issue identification process, the main themes that came out of that, that they wanted District 12 to address, wanted us to address in District 12, are 4-H programming, so children and youth programming, and food and health. Those were the things that they said were the top priorities. So we talked a little bit yesterday about agricultural literacy and helping people understand where their food comes from, and this is all sort of the drive for local food production, consumption, all of the topics that we've heard about throughout the day. One really innovative program that we have in Michigan that we've been doing for several years now is a program called Breakfast on the Farm. Breakfast on the Farm is an opportunity for private residents who don't have a farm background necessarily to come to a farm. They're served breakfast there. They get to tour the farm. They get to walk through the farm, ask questions of the farmer, ask questions of other industry representatives for that farm. Most of these take place on dairy farms, although this example here is a crop farm. So they get to spend 3 or 4 hours on the farm that day, totally open to be able to see all of the production that happens on that farm and ask whatever questions they want. This particular event served nearly 2,500 individuals. Our range is somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 for a Breakfast on the Farm event. So imagine a farm opening its doors and having 4,000 people that they don't know come to their farm and ask questions for that day. It really is an eye-opening experience for both the farmer and for the consumers. Routinely, when we evaluate the data from these programs, we find that nearly 50% of those that participate have not been on a working farm in the last 20 years. So that's a really staggering number to think about how removed people are from agriculture. So this is one way to help with that literacy of ag production. Another thing that we try to do is work with local growers on on-farm research trials. And so in this case, in this instance, my slide is a little jumbled on the bottom here, but what we did was we worked with a horse farm that was having issue with invasive weeds and invasive species that was eroding their access to horse pasture for their animals on their farm. So they wrote a grant to work with Extension to actually use goats to come in and harvest the invasive species, try to create a productive goat cycle, and reclaim those pastures without the use of chemicals, without the use of mechanized equipment, because much of it was a wooded area, not a lot of open space. They wanted to reclaim that area. So we had a team of Extension educators along with an Extension veterinarian on campus who worked with this horse owner to develop a research trial and go through the process of how much reclamation can happen using these goats. And so it's been successful. It's still an ongoing trial. They really found that the goats are, as we would expect, quite effective at removing those browse and things and reclaiming the pasture. Now we're taking that to the next level to try to figure out, can that be a business for that farm owner? How do we replicate that on a broader scale for other owners that may have the same issue? Another big issue that you've heard mentioned also a couple times is the Western Lake Erie watershed basin. So we're in southeast Michigan. We're in District 12, and much of District 12 is a part of this Lake Erie watershed basin. So all of this area here, which is most of District 12, actually drains into Lake Erie. And the last several years, there's been an issue with algal blooms. So we get a lot of algae at certain times of the year in that lake. Lake Erie is the shallowest of the Great Lakes, and so we get a lot of algae there when weather conditions are right. This year we had a very warm September. We thought we made it all the way through the recreation season on that lake without an algal bloom, and then we had 6 days of 90-degree temperatures in September, which is very unusual for us. And lo and behold, we have an algal bloom. So a team of educators, researchers, other partners from our natural resources areas, our state and local governments, Department of Agriculture, are all working together to try to figure out how to mitigate those phosphorus runoff issues that are creating this algal bloom. We certainly know that agriculture plays a role in that, but it isn't the only role player in that phosphorus. So we're trying to figure out how to best manage that issue, and so we have several partnerships that are ongoing, including Lake Erie also borders Ohio and Ontario, Canada. So all of those entities are all working together to try to solve this issue and try to determine where this phosphorus is coming from and how do we mitigate that to reduce the amount of algae. There's also teams looking at, are there ways that we can utilize the algae, maybe for alternative energy sources or things like that. They're contemplating, can we find a way to harvest that algae in the meantime until we get the problem solved. So we do part of that water work by taking producers, taking residents out onto the Great Lakes to do water tours. We have a Sea Grant program, and those Sea Grant educators work with other teams of people to actually go out and do water surveys, take samples, really see firsthand what's happening to the environment through changes that we're making over time. So it's another example of that programming. Here we have, moving on to some youth programs, we have rural education days. So this is a partnership that we do with Farm Bureau. You've heard Farm Bureau mentioned a couple times throughout the presentations. Farm Bureau is a national organization that has state clubs, if you will, state agencies, state chapters that are a part of that national organization. And Farm Bureau essentially lobbies state governments on behalf of agriculture to make sure that their voice is heard in rules and regulations that are set for production agriculture, so that we don't have issues that negatively impact the ability to farm, but yet also make all the necessary protections and things that residents want in place for agriculture in their communities. So one of the programs that we partner with Farm Bureau on is called Rural Education Days. So this is agricultural literacy at the youth level. So typically 3rd or 4th grade students, so 8 to 9-year-old children, participate in this program. They get out of school time to come to a venue, and we teach them about agriculture. So they break into small groups typically, and they go to different stations, and they learn about different topics. So it may be water issues, it may be crop production, it may be livestock production, different topics that they can learn and know a little bit more. They can ask questions, they can put their hands on some of these things, they can actually see how their food is produced and how agricultural production works and what role that plays in that. So we try to develop an interest in agriculture in youth that maybe don't have that exposure to agriculture in their private lives. Another one of our programs, this is the health and nutrition program that's really unique. One of the challenges that we have in our health and nutrition programming is because it's not mandated for adults to participate to receive food assistance or anything like that, we actually have a difficult time at times attracting adults to our nutrition programs. And so one of the programs that we have that we've had really a lot of success with attracting adults to programs is called Cooking Matters. What happens in Cooking Matters is that we actually have a chef from a local restaurant or institutional kitchen that comes in and works with our nutrition staff to help the participants of this program prepare a meal using fruits and vegetables and fresh food products. They prepare that meal on site with the help of the chef. And then at the end of that program, for that day, it's a 6-week series, so they do this for 6 weeks in a row. At the end of that program, they are given a box of groceries to take home that are all the ingredients that they need to make that meal that they prepared that evening at home with their family. And so because of that, we get a lot of impact from this program because it's hands-on. They get the food benefit to help take home to their family and feed their family, and they also get the benefit of them working with their family. Oftentimes they'll bring their kids into the kitchen and prepare meals for them using this curriculum that we've taught them over 6 to 8 weeks. And we've really seen that we have a lot of impact of that over time. That curriculum really sticks with our participants, and so that they're able to continue those trends going forward. So those are just some of the examples of delivering those programs based on community needs, based on the research that's being developed and what the needs are. We really have an interest in the food system from start to finish in the programming that we deliver, and using research tools that we have in place to be able to do that. So with that, I have one other example here of this is in classrooms working with youth. So this is more nutrition programming, but we go to schools and we work with youth and actually deliver curriculum. We have what's called My Plate, which is based on all the nutritional components that are good nutritional components of your diet, and trying to make sure that your plate is colorful in terms of the diets that you have of fruits and vegetables and proteins and carbohydrates and dairy and things of that nature. And so we have an activity-based model that we use when we work with those youth to deliver those programs in those schools. Not all of our youth nutrition programs happen in schools, but the vast majority do because they're already there. It's a captive audience. We sometimes pair that with our physical education program, and sometimes it's just classroom-based. It depends on the curriculum that we're delivering. So with that, that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have before we change gears to Dr. Golden.
Does your nutrition programs are limited?
And then at the end of that program, for that day, it's a 6-week series, so they do this for 6 weeks in a row. At the end of that program, they are given a box of groceries to take home that are all the ingredients that they need to make that meal that they prepared that evening at home with their family. And so because of that, we get a lot of impact from this program because it's hands-on. They get the food benefit to help take home to their family and feed their family, and they also get the benefit of them working with their family. Oftentimes they'll bring their kids into the kitchen and prepare meals for them using this curriculum that we've taught them over 6 to 8 weeks. And we've really seen that we have a lot of impact of that over time. That curriculum really sticks with our participants, and so that they're able to continue those trends going forward. So those are just some of the examples of delivering those programs based on community needs, based on the research that's being developed and what the needs are. We really have an interest in the food system from start to finish in the programming that we deliver, and using research tools that we have in place to be able to do that. So with that, I have one other example here of, this is in classrooms working with youth. So this is more nutrition programming, but we go to schools and we work with youth and actually deliver curriculum. We have what's called My Plate, which is based on all of the nutritional components that are good nutritional components of your diet, and trying to make sure that your plate is colorful in terms of the diets that you have of fruits and vegetables and proteins and carbohydrates and dairy and things of that nature. And so we have an activity-based model that we use when we work with those youth to deliver those programs in those schools. Not all of our youth nutrition programs happen in schools, but the vast majority do because they're already there. It's a captive audience. We sometimes pair that with our physical education program, and sometimes it's just classroom-based. It depends on the curriculum that we're delivering. So with that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have before we change gears to Dr. Golden.